to tap into the talents of its artistic community here and there.
So, what are the structures that are in place, as it were, to collate, promote, market, and then protect those who are into the business of arts and craft, as well as ensure that the sector is properly developed?
Great questions, Kingsley. But in the new mantra of the economic diversification, art and craft presents a wide spectrum of opportunities to actually earn foreign exchange. And also for those that have been carted away, I'm sure by the time we put some kind of measures to actually get them back, this will actually enhance and also boost that which you have. And I believe that culture and tradition in terms of diversities are what we can actually sell.
All right, there's no doubt about that. In addition to anyone who we mentioned, we also know that Bruzo from Delta State, he's still alive. He's in his 80s now, I believe. It's one of Nigeria's very well-renowned artists, that's to say craftsmen in terms of works of sculpture. Now, the essence of African Arts and Craft Expo, which is being hosted in Abuja, that's the 10th edition, is a situation that has brought about a number of patrons as well as other participants and stakeholders, by which African arts and crafts such as ivory works, textiles, leather, paintings, bronze works, and glass castings, embroidery and pottery items, as well as others, are on display.
Sure, Kingsley. On the program today, we shall explore the subject of developing African arts and crafts and how expos such as the one undertaken in Abuja is going to be holding the people's views, the culture, the norms and values before the world.
All right, and also in the course of the program, we shall take a look at the strike by the National Association of Resident Doctors. Now, they're saying that they might call off the strike today, which is Friday. But how is the issue being resolved? And more particularly, how can future strikes be averted? My name is Kingsley Osadolo. It's our pleasure to have you join us on Good Morning Nigeria, coming to you live on the network service of Africa's largest TV network, the NTA.
And my name is Blessing Abu. Thank you for joining us on this weekend edition. That is the last one for the working week, and we hope to bring to you our companion segments, the newspaper review, the business reports, sports, foreign, and entertainment news. Let's kick off with the morning news, and here's Laurie Bala as our morning guide. Good morning to you, Laurie.
Good morning, Blessing and Kingsley. Good morning and welcome to the news. The National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, says additional 5 trucks of assorted relief materials are on their way to Benue State to complement the initial 8 trucks already on ground to ameliorate the suffering of flood victims. Ilyasu Yakubu reports that the step, according to NEMA, is to take care of preliminary assessment of the disaster.
Again, we brought about 100 bags of rice, including those ones that have been contributed by individuals and organizations.
You can see, if you go around, you will see how we are distributing these items to them. Things are going on very well here, and they don't seem to have any problem. Initially, yes, people come, the people didn't want to stay in camp. But of course, when they saw that we started bringing things, now that's when they started coming in here.
Workable agreements have been reached in the ongoing conciliation meeting to end the industrial action embarked upon by members of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU. Emmanuel Aimiro reports that after a 14-hour deliberation, the meeting addressed the 7 issues raised by ASU, and a new proposal was made which is to be considered by the union within 1 week.
We decided that there is an agreement for government to make some fund available in September and October to show that they are not repudiating the agreement and to also show a sign of good faith. However, because of inability of government to pay the required amount, which is 220 billion, a 7-man committee was proposed, and the ASU leadership is expected to send in 3 nominees into this committee.
We discussed and we have reached agreement, and ASU is going to consult with its principals and come back to government within a week.
Had very useful deliberations. Now we have some concrete proposals that we will take back to our members as part of our consultation.
Meanwhile, the non-teaching staff unions of Nigerian universities have threatened to resume their suspended strike unless government moves to honor the Memorandum of Understanding reached in January this year concerning the full implementation of the 2009 agreement. The unions, after their emergency national executive meeting held in Abuja, said they have waited 8 months for government to begin implementation and that their members are running out of patience. Issues highlighted are similar to those of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU.
If an agreement was signed in 2009, and now in 2017, we are still demanding for the implementation of such agreement, does it not show that we have been exceedingly patient, having comprehensively cleared from our members and gotten a direction from them? We hereby announce that the Jack of Nats, NASU, and SANU has directed its members to embark on comprehensive, total and indefinite strike action effective from Monday, 11 September 2017.
The three unions, the National Association of Academic Technologists, NAT, Non-Academic Staff Union of Educational and Associated Institutions, NASU, and Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, SANU, have been appealing to government to implement fully the 2009 agreement. Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, has commended the authorities of Bayero University, Kano, for elevating the university's mass communications department to a faculty. The minister made the commendation in Kano shortly after inaugurating some projects at the new site of the university.
UK is actually very committed, and they want to be the foremost university in Nigeria, if not in Africa, in the area of mass communication. We have seen the various studios, we've seen the performing theater, we've seen the academic blocks, we've seen the offices, and we've seen the provision for the postgraduate students. So what BUK is actually telling us is that mass communication is too big to be a department, and they are blazing the trail in making it a faculty.
And the security matters now. The Inspector General of Police, Ibrahim Idris, has commended Nasarawa State Government for the donation of befitting accommodation to serve as the new police command headquarters in Lafia. Joshua Ojito reports that the edifice has more than 60 offices of different sizes.
Have reached advanced stage to resuscitate the operation of Operation Nasara, so that we can have interdisciplinary committee that will checkmate any kind of crime, no matter how sophisticated.
May I also call on individuals and corporate bodies to identify in this manner as the duty of ensuring guaranteeing security networking is a duty to all Nigerians.
And the Nigerian Air Force says it is intensifying operations in the northeast to wipe out remnants of the Boko Haram terrorists. Chief of Air Staff Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar disclosed this in Abuja during a meeting with principal staff officers.
We must redouble our efforts, especially in the northeast. I know we have commenced an operation in the northeast which is aimed at further degrading Boko Haram. The operation code name Operation Ruambuta, which has commenced. We are going to massively dominate the entire area and make it extremely difficult for anybody that is there that is a criminal to come out to kill innocent Nigerians.
And away from security, a book titled The Genius Orator in honor of late Damasen Kanu, Alhaji Yusuf Maitama Sule, has been presented to the public. Vice President Yemi Oshinbajo at the occasion described late Damasen Kanu as an exceptional orator who believed in the unity and indivisibility of Nigeria.
For whom material comforts were never a driving force. Public service to him was never about himself, it was never about the trappings of office, it was never about wealth or privilege. Instead, it was about serving humanity and living true to his beliefs and ideals.
But I am sure that the research that was conducted before writing this book must have paid adequate attention to this aspect of his life. I want to thank the writers of this book for their contribution to our administrative, diplomatic, educational, historical, and political developments as a nation.
And that's the news for now. Good morning, Nigeria. We'll continue with Kingsley and Blessing after this break. Good morning.
From 1967 to 1970, Nigeria went through a horrifying civil war. It didn't matter who was wrong or right. Everybody suffered. Those who fought that war say it should never happen again.
So a lot of people will say, but you were leading the first one. Yes, I led the first one. I don't think a second one is necessary. We should have learned from that first one. Otherwise, the dead would have been to no avail, would all have been in vain.
The words of our elders are full of wisdom.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
Kehinde suffers from indigestion. His twin Taiyi suffers from heartburn. Sometimes it's the other way around, or both. That's why they use Gaviscon Double Action. It soothes within 3 minutes and lasts for up to 4 hours. For double relief from heartburn and indigestion, Gaviscon Double Action.
Dear Nigerians, let's safeguard our lives and properties against flood. Did you know that flood is a natural or man-made disaster that has affected thousands, with many lives lost and properties damaged? Change begins with you and me. Do not build houses along waterways and flood-prone areas. If you live around flood-prone areas, please start considering relocating to avoid losses. Avoid dumping of refuse in gutter and water channels. Frequently clear your drainages and waterways. Always listen to weather forecast on television and radio. Adhere and take seriously early warning alerts from relevant authorities. And in case of emergency, call 0800-2255-6362. Remember, disaster management is everybody's business. This message is from the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA. NEMA, for the sake of the distressed.
Helen! You do great value shopping. Absolutely. I'm a champion at getting value. Then you must have bought the Harpic 200 ml. Why Harpic when I have this? Even after applying them 10 times, they won't give a sparkling clean toilet. Impossible. Challenge. Detergent and bleach can't give a sparkling clean toilet even after 10 times. But Harpic 200 ml gives a sparkling clean toilet at one go. Wow!
Harpic 200 ml. Real deal. Now only 200 naira.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. Time now to take a look at the business report for the day. Nigeria's economic recovery generates more reactions as experts task federal government on sustenance of the policy. Here's Joy Uzo with details of this and other business stories.
Hello and welcome to Business News. The news that Nigeria is finally out of recession was greeted with cheers by the international community. The United States Agency for International Development, one of the country's development partners, described the report as a welcome development. The agency, in a statement in Abuja, said the report shows that there is potential for integration between private and public sectors to keep the economy stronger. Meanwhile, Director General Abuja Chamber of Commerce Chijioke Ikechukwu says only sustainability of the Economic Recovery Growth Plan (ERGP) policy that contributed to the exit of the country from the 22 months economic recession will make the recovery growth have meaningful impact on Nigerians. In an interview with NTA Business News, Mr. Ikechukwu said, though the report by the National Bureau of Statistics, which shows that Nigeria is out of economic recession, is good, but indicators that favored Nigeria's exit must not be toyed with.
We need to grow our manufacturing sector. Every effort that should be made by government to grow our manufacturing sector should be where we'll be looking at. I want to commend the efforts made at the agricultural sector. So many people are becoming agriculturists, are becoming farmers today, and many people are beginning to export goods and services being produced in our various farms and agricultural settlements. The implication of this is that the Nigerian balance of payment is going to gradually become positive because we are beginning to export, and when we export, the foreign currencies that we've been looking for will be available for us to have.
The DG added that the impact of a positive improvement like this should ideally be felt by all classes of citizens in the country before one can boldly assert that a growth experience is inclusive. The African Development Bank and the World Bank have set aside $800 million for the provision of agriculture technologies to farmers in Africa. The president of African Development Bank, AFDB, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, made this known at the 2017 African Green Revolution Forum in Abuja. According to him, the financial support will come under a flagship program for scaling up of agriculture known as Technologies for African Agricultural Transformation. The AFDB boss noted that the technologies to feed Africa exist already but need to be scaled up for widespread adoption because it required specific incentives. He added that agriculture is instrumental in Africa's poverty and it must be instrumental in its wealth, but only through agricultural regeneration. No region of the world has ever industrialized without the agriculture sector being first transformed, he said. Adesina said the future of Africa depended on agriculture and required $40 billion yearly over the next 10 years. Equities market on Thursday sustained positive sentiments, with the NSE All-Share Index appreciating by 1.42% to close at 36,116.19 basis points. Here are the closing figures of trading on the floor of the exchange on Thursday, 7th of September, 2017. That's it on Business News. I am Joy Uzo.
Thank you very much, Joy Uzo, for the Business News and Good Morning Nigeria. Next for us, we'll go to the front pages of today's newspapers to check out the headlines. As usual, our newspaper reviewer, Bayo Atoyobi, is right here with us for today's edition of the review segment. Bayo, morning and welcome.
Good morning.
It's Friday, by the way.
Yes, Friday is here.
Good morning, Bayo.
Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, Blessing, let's take a look at the front page. There are some stories that have come on to the front pages of the papers, anti-corruption reactions there to politics and all of that. Let's begin with the Blueprint newspaper. The lead story for Blueprint comes with a kicker. That's Blueprint. It says, Senate to Buhari, call Sage to order. That's the lead story, and it jumps to page 6 from the front page. And then below the nameplate, you see that 2019, I'm ready for sack over Atiku, Aisha Al-Hassan. She's incumbent Minister of Women Affairs. And then you have other headlines there. Staff training, Noun Palace, Third Fund on Intervention Fund. That's on page 27. And Senate to expose banks used for MMM fraud. That's one of those Ponzi schemes that went up in the haze some months ago. Page 5 in greater detail. Now, below the photograph, you also have another headline, other headlines rather. We didn't condemn federal governments. This is according to Southeast governors. Borno, cholera claims 23 in 3 weeks. That's attributed to United Nations. And farmers predict bumper harvest as prices drop. And NLC plans protests against salaries owing governors. That's on page 6.
Yeah, all right, Kingsley. The anti-graft war you talked about in your paper is trending as a lead story for Daily Sun. Anti-graft war. Senate tackles Buhari's man with the rider. Presidency losing war on corruption. It says Sage spreading beer parlor rumors against us, says lawmakers. That story found on page 7. And the photograph is that of the Hurricane Irma as it tore through the Caribbean islands yesterday. Atiku to Buhari, you used me. And there is a writer to that story. Aisha Al-Hassan at Villa stands by position on president. Strike. Resident doctors to get 422 billion naira. You find the details on page 9. Back to the issue of the flood. Flood takes over Lokoja Abuja Expressway. Motorists stranded. And there is the rider. NEMA asks Kogi communities to relocate. You find all the details on page 41. Quickly now, still on Aisha Al-Hassan, the Minister for Women Affairs. That's the lead story for this day. Al-Hassan doubles down on comments, saying Buhari promised not to run in 2019. To riders in visit to State House, says president is not naive. APC chieftain, there is no alternative to Buhari. Starts right there but continues on page 12. Bayo.
Yes, the cabinet minister who caused a stir by declaring that he is going to support a former, she is going to support a former vice president come 2019, has declined further comments. State House correspondent called her and she said that she has said enough on her interview with the BBC Hausa service. Asked if she was confident in retaining her job, she says, God gives and God takes. There is an end to everything. Supporters of President Muhammadu Buhari have alleged that she is exhibited the highest level of disloyalty. The nation says her position was revealed in a video clip that showed her leading a delegation of Taraba APC to the former vice president, where she declared, Mr. President, our father, Nigeria's president come 2019, God willing. Most cabinet members are said to be shocked, and some say this is an indication of her loyalty. Others say it is typical of that minister. Meanwhile, a chieftain of the All Progressive Congress by name Mr. Priye Agamba says that though the minister has a right of choice, but she is not being fair to the president. According to him, President Muhammadu Buhari is doing well, and come 2019, APC will continue to fill President Muhammadu Buhari. He said he's doing well, the economy is doing well. I don't think the president is terminally ill. Like every human being, he fell sick. But because he is president, everybody begins to make it a subject of discussion. I saw him yesterday. He is looking very fresh. He rested well at Daura. So far, there's been no comment from all presidential, but speculations are rife that cabinet reshuffle might be imminent. The worrying development is about flood. A tributary of River Niger has overflowed its banks, and Lokoja is now inundated with water. Many homes, buildings, and other places are flooded. They include homes, shops, and the area concerned are Puruku, Felele, and other parts of Ashokuta area in Lokoja. Parts of the Abuja-Lokoja highway was also flooded. Commuters were stranded for several hours, up to about 3 hours before they were able to pass through. Lokoja-Ajaokuta road is also stranded, is also flooded. It may be recalled that in 2012, in fact, the north to the south was cut off completely. Lokoja, apart from being a confluence of River Niger and Benue, is also a confluence of 10...
First break for us here in Abuja in 2017, and in September, we are still having
the rains. Are still there.
Let's return to other papers. Nigerian Tribune, very quickly. Nigerian Tribune, below the nameplate, you have other headlines. Some of them, of course, Bayo has already discussed. The sack threat, Buhari not naive, says Al-Hassan on a visit to Aso Villa. And then Senate to Buhari, we read that already, calls Sage to order. And police fault PSC and say Misol remains a deserter. PSC stands for Police Service Commission. And then, of course, they flood there. Now, the lead story is at Restructuring Summit in Ibadan. On regional government, we stand. This is attributed to Yoruba leaders and Southwest governors. And they say that Nigeria can only know peace and development if run along federating units. And we're on the same page, Southeast and South-South leaders. That's on pages 9 and 10 in greater detail. Very briefly, Blessing.
No, most of the stories are what we have tackled.
From the Daily Sun.
Exactly.
It's from Leadership on Friday. Let's take the lead story. It says, no need for ASU strike. That's according to TED Fund. And it said that allocation to tertiary institutions tripled and will go back to work if we are paid. That's according to doctors, that's the Association of Resident Doctors. Nigerian Sovereign Wealth Fund, now $2 billion.
Talking about strike, there is appearing what looks like a mirror image now. You remember it was first ASU strike, the National Association of Resident Doctors, then SANU, NASU, and NAT. Now you have Nigerian Association of Nigerian Nurses and Midwives warning that they also are about to embark on strike.
Copycat.
Yes.
All right, Bayo Toby, that's the bunch that we can take. Thank you for being here. We hope you enjoy your Friday and indeed your weekend.
I'm looking forward to it.
See you on Monday. All right, it's still Good Morning Nigeria. We'll take a short break. When we return, of course, we have 2 issues to discuss in our discussion segment today.
Hate speech is not a joke. It incites genocide and crimes against humanity. Most of Africa's civil wars are caused by hate speech from one tribe against another. We don't want it here. The Nigerian government stands firm against hate speech.
I was distressed to notice that some of the comments, especially in the social media, have crossed our national red lines by daring to question our collective existence as a nation. This is a step too far.
One nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
Nigeria, one nation, one people.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
Whenever pain occurs, you want quick relief. Try new Nurofen Express. It goes to the source of pain and gets to work in under 15 minutes. That's why Nurofen Express delivers fast and effective relief. New Nurofen Express works at the source of pain, fast.
Being a mom is great, but when your child has a fever, you don't know what to do. I trust Nurofen for Children to take care of my child's pain and fever.
Effective relief you can trust.
Winning in hot and dry conditions is hard. Causes the body to sweat, which attracts germs that are easily passed from one person to another. What keeps you so cool, man? Dettol Cool combines Dettol's protection and an invincible icy feel. For super cool confidence, use Dettol Cool.
The health delivery profession is one of the most abused professions in the world, especially in our part of the world.
We be doctor.
Everybody is a doctor. Everybody is a pharmacist who peddles and prescribes drugs, herbal remedies, and treatment procedures.
It dey cure HIV, it dey cure AIDS, it dey cure curiosity, it dey cure anger.
What type of drug cures all these ailments?
Alas, some sanity needs to be achieved before we completely go over the ledge. Your rib-cracking comedy, Professor John Boo, takes a satirical look at this ugly trend this week in the episode titled Street Doctor.
Prepare some rice and pepper soup for him and ensure he eats it. If he fails, shove it down his throat if you have to. Over and out.
Brought to you by Glow.
The largest data network, Glow Unlimited.
Kehinde suffers from indigestion. His twin Taiyi suffers from heartburn. Sometimes it's the other way around, or both. That's why they use Gaviscon Double Action. It soothes within 3 minutes and lasts for up to 4 hours. For double relief from heartburn and indigestion, Gaviscon Double Action.
Just tuned in, the program is Good Morning Nigeria. Now, the first part of our conversation is looking at the strike action by the National Association of the Resident Doctors. Well, when the National Association of the Resident Doctors announced the commencement of its indefinite strike on Monday, the impact was immediately felt by patients, particularly those receiving treatment or in critical conditions. Now, the negotiation to resolve the situation have been intense and some agreement appears to have been reached. Here's Timothy Yusuf with this background report.
Anytime doctors embark on strike to press home their demands, there are reports of untold hardships experienced by patients, particularly poor ones who have no capacity to access medical care from private health providers. The recent action by the National Association of Resident Doctors left the same bitter taste in the mouths of patients who have continued to pray for a quick resolution. Despite series of meetings between the executive of the resident doctors and the federal government delegation, the strike persists. At the marathon meeting held in Abuja through the early hours of this Thursday, the cheering news came that most of the thorny issues have been resolved and the strike may be ending. The federal government delegation included the Minister of Labour and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige, and that of Health, Professor Isaac Adewale. The meeting, which lasted several hours, revealed that the strike will continue until this Friday, when the doctors are expected to meet to review the offer by the government on their demands, including payment of salary arrears owed. The meeting also agreed that National Association of Resident Doctors National Officers is to present the outcome of the renegotiated Memorandum of Terms of Settlement to an emergency meeting of its members later today, Friday, 8 September, with a view to suspending the strike once there is evidence of payment as agreed at the meeting. It will be recalled that the National Association of Resident Doctors of Nigeria on Monday morning directed all its members across the country to embark on total and indefinite strike action until further notice. While patients heave a sigh of relief that the strike may be suspended, the question many ask is, how long will the resolution hold the doctors from coming up with other grievances to embark on another strike? Our guests have the answers.
All right, thank you very much, Timothy Yusuf, for that background report. Now we have with us in the studios here Dr. Wapada Balami. He is Director of Hospital Services of the Federal Ministry of Health. Dr. Balami, a pleasure to have you join us on the program this morning.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, Nigerians.
Okay, and then also here with us is Dr. Ige Kalawole. Dr. Ige is a member of the National Officers Committee of the National Association of Resident Doctors. Dr. Ige, a pleasure to have you join us on the program.
Good morning and welcome, and good morning, Nigerians.
All right, blessing. Let's, for the benefit of our viewers, one important question that they have tended to ask is, who are resident doctors and who are their employers? Let's begin with Dr. Balami and then we'll also take it.
Yes, thank you very much. Resident doctors are doctors who are employed to be trained as consultants. That entails that they have an entry and exit point. We've tried to look at the whole structure and believe that by 6-8 years, a doctor should be able to be trained to become a consultant. There are interns, there are trainees who would specialize in different fields of medicine. Apparently, the structure before we come in has been distorted, and we have reviewed the structure to suit the purpose of the program. This has been done in collaboration with the residents and also with the Nigerian Medical Association, because we noticed that there are some residents who have stayed in the program for even more than 10 years. Of recent, I had an example from one of the teaching hospitals where a resident has stayed for more than almost 19 years. And these are the crop of the residents who are likely to cause problems for us. But if a doctor enters the program and is focused and has a purpose to become a consultant, maximum by 8 years he should be able to finish the program.
So who are their employers?
Their employers are the teaching hospital, the federal government, but their primary constituency are the teaching hospitals. There are some institutions, both private and state government institutions, who are also accredited for training programs. Apparently, when you look at what we call today as National Association of Resident Doctors, it tends to bring in people who are even not residents. For instance, doctors employed by state government, for which the federal government is not in control of those group of doctors. And those doctors, basically some of them are even medical officers who are not enrolled into the residency program. And you find that when issues arise, the National Association try to carry them in their quest to actualize what the federal government is providing for its doctors. And it becomes very difficult because the states are autonomous by our own structure of governance. And the Federal Ministry of Health cannot control state governors to impose on them to provide the welfare of what it is providing to its residents. So some of the issues become so complicated because if the National Association of Resident Doctors agree with the federal government, these agreements are not translated into the states, and it makes the strike more and more complicated because we are not in control of the states. The states are supposed, the states branches, if they call themselves, they are part of the association, should be able to sit down with the state government or state governors and re-agree or adopt what the federal government has provided for its residents. I give you a very strong example of things that are happening that are impossible for us to tackle today. You find that the salary of a house officer at the federal level is earned by a consultant at the state level. And there is a drift, massive drift of doctors' quest to be employed by the Federal Ministry of Health. And this has put too much of pressure on the system. Government has a good intention, but at the state levels, some of the agreements that we reach are not respected by state governors. And this is a fact.
All right, Dr. Prof, how long this had already in place and it has to take strikes or strike actions to actually bring them up is what we'll find out there. But Dr. Ikolawole,
yes,
he's just pointed out who are these ones on strike, those who are resident or non-resident, as explanation has been brought to us.
Well, I'll try to answer your question directly and not go into much details that are not needed that the Director of Hospital Service has gone into. Most of the things that he said are actually not part of your question. What your question exactly is, who are the resident doctors and
who are the employers?
Who are the employer? Now, a resident doctor is a doctor that is undergoing residency training, one training or the other, in a teaching hospital or in a federal medical center or even in a state teaching hospital, that is below the rank of a consultant and a permanent medical officer. So if there is any cadre of doctor that is undergoing any form of training that is below the rank of a consultant or a permanent medical officer, such is a resident doctor.
For what duration?
Well, for the house officers who are members of National Associations of Resident Doctors, their own training spans a period of 12 months. And by the time they are done with this, they proceed to their NYSC. And by the time they come back, they can now decide where to pursue their career, either to go back into residency training or to maybe stay as medical officers or maybe go into master's program, as so many people are doing right now. So, and the employer of a resident doctor basically is the federal government. Now, you see, anytime anything happens, the federal government are always quick to call us essential service provider. Now, Dr. Balami here has mentioned the fact that the doctors in the state hospitals, that they are not supposed to be part of National Association of Resident Doctors because they are in state. But if we are essential service provider, is there anything that deters the federal government for making all doctors in Nigeria to be federal doctors? The answer is no. And he also answered it himself that if an house officer that just finished school, that just graduated from any of the College of Health Sciences in Nigeria, gets an employment with federal government, that his salary will be almost the same as the salary of a consultant that is working with the state. Is that supposed to be? We went to the same teaching, we went to the same university, we were exposed to the same level of knowledge, we bought the same textbook, we went into the same expenses, and because some now are unable to get work with the federal government, do that mean they should suffer for the rest of their life? The answer is no. So, he also said that is the reason why most doctors are trying to enter into the federal government-owned teaching hospital. That is not supposed to be so. There is when this administration came on board, especially the Minister of Health, Professor Isaac Adewale, he said that there is going to be universal applicability. Now, more than 2 years have gone down the drain. We have not seen something like that. The meaning of universal applicability is that even if a doctor is working with a local government, it's supposed to be collecting the same thing that a doctor of the same rank that is working with the federal government is collecting.
All right, Dr. Ige, thank you very much. No, just hang on a second there, Dr. Balami. Dr. Ige, the question that we asked the Director of Hospital Services, he already answered those questions. Please clarify this for us.
Okay.
Association of Resident Doctors is currently on strike.
Yes.
Which means there is a dispute between the resident doctors and their employer or employers.
Yes.
And the question is, who is or who are the employers of resident doctors? Is the federal government now the employer of all doctors in Nigeria?
The answer is no. The federal government is not the employer of all the doctors in Nigeria. But like I rightly said, the composition of our National Association of Resident Doctors, we have the doctors that are in the state teaching hospitals because they are members.
Okay, so with whom do you have a dispute at the moment?
With the federal government.
So what happens to those ones that are the states, like the teaching hospitals, like we said? Are those ones still working?
Of course, they are not working, because they are members of the National Associations of Resident Doctors.
So whatever it is that the federal government is holding with those of you at the federal level is binding on the states now?
That is the way that it's supposed to be in a sane country.
But that's supposed to be. You've used the word supposed to be.
Okay. Now, I just told you that we have the same exposure and we are in the same association. We are in the same association, and it's not only in the National Association of Resident Doctors that you have people that are part of the National Association that are actually working in states. You see that you see that with ASU. So why should there be a difference with the medical doctors?
All right, Dr. Ige, Dr. Balami, you wanted to respond. Let's get that before we get to the nitty-gritty.
Let's just make some slight modification of what my colleague my student just said. The fact is, we have to clearly put things in the correct perspective, not for us to put issues who are abnormal to semblantly look as if it is normal. House officers are interns. As of today, federal government has approved the central posting of house officers, and FEC has approved that. Government is making a lot of efforts to address the issue of doctors in this country. We do not subscribe to the concept that house officers belongs to resident doctors because they are interns. When they finish the internship, they go for NYSC. And the prerequisite of engagement into residency program is you must have a primary, you must pass your primary. It is after they have passed that primary that we employ them. If they apply, we employ them as residents. Secondly, the issue of medical officers. Medical officers are not trained to become consultants. They are working mostly with the state general hospitals. If they are working with the state general hospitals as medical officers, who do not aspire to be a consultant, how do they become residents? And my colleague need to understand also the structure of healthcare service in this country follows the structure of our government. That is primary, secondary, and tertiary. I know that there are some states that have tertiary institutions like specialist hospitals and teaching hospitals who also engage the service of residents. But I'm talking of the core medical officers who are at the local government level or who are working at the state general hospital. What involves them to engage themselves to claim they are residents? That's the issue I'm asking.
All right, Dr. Balabi, thanks. Again, Dr. Ige, well, based on this clarification, of course, house officers are those who have just had their MBBS. They just graduated from university, and then they take that first year or 12 months before they proceed to their NYC. What we used to hear in the past, if you are a resident, is that you are trained to become a consultant. Yes. Do we have a sense of your membership of, shall we now use the expression, core residents? Or how many are you? You have a sense of your population or your size? So that we'd also take it from there to say, okay, at the federal level, those who are in federal employment, we have 1,000. Those who are in state employment, we have another 500. Before we start getting to the issues of whether there will be equalization of pay and so on and so forth. The argument you made, of course, is one that lawyers can also make. Engineers in state and the federal services can also make. But let's deal with that. What is your population?
Well, as it is right now, I may not be able to give you the population of the entire residents that are in Nigeria.
7,000.
But I was going to say that over a certain number, but I will not just want to give something that is wrong. So that is that about that.
Okay, now let's get to the nitty-gritty.
Strike.
Why are you on strike?
Well, I thank you very much. I was actually expecting that that would be the first question. On
no. Wait. This is our program.
This is our own area. It's not medical.
All right. Now, the reason why we are on strike is because we have been neglected over so many number of years. Not just the resident doctor now, but the whole of the medical doctors in Nigeria. And you can see that in the negotiation meeting with the federal government, that the NMA president was there and was speaking for even all the doctors apart from the resident doctors. But to the reason why the resident doctors are on strike, I take it just the way we have itemized them in our communique that we sent to the federal government. First is the fact that, you see, every month from January 2016, we are called essential service provider, but we have shortfall in our salary. We are being paid our salaries on a platform that is called the non-regular allowance platform. And every month, that platform has problem. We are essential service provider, we are federal government workers, yet we are not on the platform that the federal government recognizes as the platform that pays all federal workers, which is called IPs. We are on the non-regular platform. And this platform, because of it, after everyone in Nigeria is paid, we are the ones that are paid last. And by the time there is a shortfall in Nigeria, then it's push on us such that there are months that we receive 30%, 50%, 70%, 75% of our monthly salary. Now, this was ongoing throughout 2016, but I must also say that it's not in all the teaching hospitals. You have pockets of teaching hospitals where such are happening. My hospital was affected in December last year. So many hospitals were affected from January. Now, when it now came to January 2017, all the teaching hospitals, all the resident doctors that are under the employment of federal government, none collected 100% of their salary. My center has 28% shortfall, or some other centers 30%, some other center 50%, and that happened in January, it happened in March, it happened in February, it happened in March. And by the time April came, we started engaging federal government that you cannot call us essential service provider and then we are the last set of people to collect salary. And not just that, we are paid fractions of our salary. We go to the same market that other people go to. So, we started engaging federal government, but we couldn't get anything. And even as I'm talking with you right now, we have not gotten anything.
What explanation
is being pushed for this?
I tended to agree to some of his submissions, But it's important to note that we inherited this problem from the previous government. And we made an attempt to address this issue by putting all doctors on the IP's platform. And at that time, they threatened to go on strike, that they don't want to be on the IP's platform.
Is that the situation?
Let me just finish. These are realities of history. When they threatened to go on strike because they don't want to be on the IP's platform, they gave their own reasons. And we didn't see it as urgent because the only sustainable way of keeping them on their salary flowing uninterruptedly like any other part of the economy is to put them on the IP's platform. They threatened to go on strike. Today is an irony. They are going on strike because they want to be put on that platform. And these are issues we also discussed at the level of agreement we reached. The agreement has been reached on transferring them on the platform by October. But these are facts that initially when we inherited this problem, we look at it as a matter of concern and urgency to address this issue so that we could have averted this position we're in today.
So the agreement now, is in consonance with all the demands?
To me, let me state here categorically that most of the issues that are listed would have been averted. There were no strong reasons for strike.
All right, Dr. Balabit, thanks. We've dealt with one issue now, which is to say migration from non-regular now to IPs. And it says by October that will be taken care of. What are the other reasons for the national action?
The
shortfall.
The second reason why we're on strike is that, now I just told you now that in January, February, March, we had shortfalls. Now it was corrected for April, May, June, July. Now from August again, centers will begin to have shortfalls again. It's not supposed to be so. The same mechanism that was used to rectify from April, why can't that same mechanism be put in place such that all resident doctors in Nigeria will collect their full salary till the end of the year? Now, never forget, we work in the same hospital with people that are actually collecting 100% salary under the same federal ministry of health. It's not supposed to be so. So that is the second point.
Yeah, well, let's still deal with
shortfalls. It's important I mention something here.
Right, Dr. Balami.
This shortfall, we agreed they are shortfalls. They are shortfalls. But it's not only affecting the Federal Ministry of Health. It's a service-wide issue. But government has shown a lot of concern by approving about 14 billion to settle these shortfalls. These settlements require processes. And it was agreed at that meeting that at least, in fact, some of the teaching hospitals, the funds have been sent to central CBN, who detected some abnormalities and returned the funds. And efforts are being made to ensure that these payments are made in batches from today, as we are speaking. Efforts are being made by the Office of the Accountant General to settle the shortfalls.
Dr. Balami, thanks. Dr. Ige, doctors, resident doctors employed by state governments, are they also migrating to IPs? Do they also have the issue of shortfall in their salaries to be part of this industrial action?
In fact, the doctors in the state hospitals, they are even facing worse, because there are centers that doctors in the state hospital have not even collected salary for 2 years. There are centers where the shortfalls have been for 2 years, and there are places where they are actually on IPs, because most states are on IPs, and there are also centers where they are actually not on IPs. But the bottom line is that doctors in state teaching hospitals are even facing more stern conditions. And I just told you, these are not things that are supposed to be so. All the police officers in this country are under the employment of federal government because they are ranked along the same side with us as essential service provider. Why is that difficult with doctors? And I've also talked about universal applicability. Why? Because To me,
is that an issue now? Is that an issue now in this industrial action?
No,
that the federal government should now employ all doctors in the country?
It's not, but we're on a national program, and you see, the truth is that even if this strike is averted by whatever means the government is now trying to do, I'm trying to tell you that there are problems in the health sector. There are problems in the health sector, and for as long as there are problems in the health sectors, because as resident doctors, we are stakeholders in quality healthcare delivery in Nigeria. We are concerned, and because we want the places that are rural, where we have most of our families, we want the presence of federal government there so that these lives will be touched. Okay. So there will always be problem if we continue the way we are going.
So what exactly now are other demands that people are putting?
Okay. The other demands, I will quickly rush through them. I told you the second one. From August again, centers will begin to have shortfall. Now, the third thing is the fact that, again, all workers in the health sectors were skipped. Doctors were not. And that has been a problem as far back as 1998, but doctors are now even asking. Fine, after the JOESU, that is the Association of Other Health Workers in the Hospitals, they took federal government to court, and they warned the fact that people in health sector, workers in health sector should also be skipped. We are now saying that, okay, from 2014, put us in a correct grade level and step. Well, so many centers have done that, but because the Federal Ministry of Health is supervising, have not been able to put their foot on ground and say, this is what is to be done. You have a situation whereby centers are doing it, some other centers are not doing it. So, and because of that, it has also caused stagnation of promotion. A situation where you are promoted and you still remain on the same grade level and step on the same grade level. Now, these are some of the...
Just hold on a second. Take this along. But it is your association now trumping the Nigerian Medical Association. In other words, is your association now taking over matters that ordinarily would be handled by the Nigerian Medical Association? Because the issues you are raising would appear to be omnibus and not specific to a critical subset, as it were.
We're actually not a subset of National Association, National Medical Association. We're just an affiliated. We are affiliated to NMA, so we are an association of our own, and but we have affiliation to Nigerian Medical Association, and NMA has taken this up too, and they've been able to achieve one or two things as far as those areas is concerned. But as National Association of Resident Doctors, we are autonomous, and that is the reason why we are pressing the issues that concern our members. So the fourth reason why we're on strike is the issue of the new house officer entry level.
House officer?
Yes.
Not a resident.
Again.
House officers are members of National Associations of Resident Doctors, and there has been situations whereby we're taken to court and we warn the fact that they are members of they are members of National Association of Resident Doctors. I give you an example in OAUTA Shagamu. We're taken to court that house officers are not supposed to be part of National Association of Resident Doctors, but we won the case, and today they are. So maybe until there is an appeal against such, maybe then we can begin to say that house officers are not part of National Association of Resident Doctors.
Dr.
Now,
let him respond to the
let me just start with the house officers issue, because you are supposed to be there for 12 months. By 13th month, you exit. By our central posting is by 13th month, we shut down your salary, because you are supposed to complete your internship by
12 months.
12 months. If you choose to spend the 12 months on strikes, it's your own problem. It's not the problem of federal government. Now, the issue of skipping. I tend to agree with my colleagues slightly to some extent, but he should appreciate the fact that only 12 hospitals currently, which the minister has directed that I write a circular to those institutions who have done that, to implement the skipping for doctors. So the issue of skipping is out of our way now.
What's skipping?
Because skipping is, you know, when we have the grade level system, level 11 does not exist. You jump from 10 to 12. So what they are saying is they should jump their own structure at one grade level also, which court granted to Jehesu. Initially, we were looking at it in the context of legality, but the government has agreed that they should skip. So we have issued circular to the outstanding teaching hospitals, which are only 12.
That is the one that are not
the one that
implementing
are not
and the one that are implementing partially.
We have issued that circular.
Okay, gentlemen,
now,
sorry,
let me just say a word or two on this issue of relationship between NMA and NAD. I think my colleagues should put things in a proper context. There is no way you are a doctor in this country and you said because you are affiliate, you are autonomous. NRD is part of NMA, is affiliated to NMA, and therefore in a normal situation, they are supposed to, when they deliberate and take decisions, it is supposed to be endorsed by NMA. In most instances, you find that residents take decision and coerce NMA to just follow them, and that is not best.
So are you saying that's what happened in this instance?
Best for the,
is it possible for his own a son to coerce a father to?
So you now agree that you are a son to NMA?
All right, gentlemen, the reactions already from our viewers. Let's read through them, and we'll continue with the next set of questions before we round up on this discussion. Umechimeze says, these doctors maximize their earnings through private services they render. They should learn to be contented and professional.
Mike Anyakwa, speedy resolution of the crisis cannot be overemphasized. All stakeholders should appreciate the fact that lives are involved.
And Hassan Labaran says, whatever that is the outcome of the meeting, the federal government should give them all listening ears and diplomatically have a common ground with them.
Sani Michael Omakoje, the government should continue the dialogue and address the issue once and for all. It's not healthy for our health sector to be on strike.
Law Alpha C, the strike by NAD, that's a National Association of Resident Doctors, and others are justified in the sense that the critical sectors ought to be treated, that such critical sectors ought to be treated with kid gloves.
This is from Muhammad Jamil Sadara. It says Dr. Ige needs to show some decorum. If there are issues, I think those issues can be settled in their respective jurisdictions.
Saka Tajuddin says a holistic approach needs to be taken to address issues of strike in public sectors in Nigeria, even to the level of teachers.
Ibrahim Usman tweets, please, Dr. Ige should talk about questions asked, not telling viewers and listeners what the director said.
Dele Jack Solomon says, my moderator who is at the receiving end is the poor Nigerian masses. The elites and the rich will continue to patronize medical tourism.
We have this from Alagbala Taiwo. It says, if you say doctors should be paid the same salary throughout the federation, are all the states viable? Do you want government to owe you?
Abdullahi Musa has this tweet. It's unfortunate that doctors who got training with government scholarships are now making life miserable for the common Nigerian. God damn.
All right. Now, those are some of the tweets that we have in the meantime. Let's go quickly again to Dr. Ige. Dr. Ige, well, you've raised a number of issues as part of the raft of demands that doctors have made. If there are one or two other issues involved, let us know quickly. But what is the situation now?
Well, there are 6 points. I've gone through 4. The remaining 2, he has talked about them, and there are things they have to do with enrollment into IPs. And I quickly say something about that.
That was the first thing you talked about, actually, I believe.
Enrollment into IPs.
It was the first item.
But now is the 15 on... No, is the 15 on the...
I know, whichever the number is on.
Okay. Then he said that we went on strike so that because we wanted to go out of IPs. Well, that was not entirely the situation. What happened was that when there was IPs enrollment, there are some of our members that couldn't access salary for 7 months. And when life became unbearable for them, we rose up as an association and said, no, stop this. we're just being, we're very.
So what is the situation? Has the strike been called off? Are you ready to call off the strike? What is the,
No,
where is the center point?
We have gotten into agreement with government as at the last meeting that we had, that was conciliated by the Honorable Minister of Labour. We've gotten into agreement, and just like it was acknowledged in that meeting, the only body that can call off that strike is the National Executive Council of NAD. And the meeting that will call off that strike, we hold either today or tomorrow. We're not even sure, because the member...
Who has control over the council?
Well, the National Officers Committee, which I'm one of them, has the constitutional right to call for the meeting within 72 hours. Now, that notice has been given to members of NEC. So it is the NEC that has the power to call off the strike. And Dr. Ngige, being the kind of person he is, he understood all this, and he has allowed us to follow exactly our constitution.
All right, Dr. Gao, just wondering before we bring in Dr. Balami for your last comments. You say you have reached an agreement with the federal government. Were state governments also represented at the meeting? Did they also concur?
Yes. But what the Honorable Minister of Labour said, that in the meantime, that he can only appeal to the state governors to please look at all these points, all these things that they've gone into agreement with National Association of Resident Doctors, and apply it to their own doctors, just in the meantime.
Yeah. What does that mean to the resident doctors, to your association? Does that tell you that, listen, the federal government has no responsibility as well for states?
Well, that is what it tells. But we're taking it off from there.
All right. Dr. Balami, very quickly.
Well, my own last comment is just to appeal to my colleagues, the resident doctors, to consider the position put forward to them by government. I think government has acted in good spirit to agree on all the issues they brought forward. While they are going to have their meeting, let them look at their job as a job that saves life, that Nigerians need their service, and we are appealing to them to call off the strike, while government is addressing most of the issues that have been agreed upon.
All right, Dr. Wapada Balami, Director, Hospital Services, Federal Minister of Health, thank you for being on Good Morning Nigeria today.
Thank you very much.
Right. And our appreciation also to Dr. Kola Olege, who of course is a member of the National Officers Committee of the National Association of Resident Doctors. Thank you for your time and your comments.
Thank you very much.
All right, it's Good Morning Nigeria today. We'll take a short break. When we return, we'll be taking a look at another subject matter, this time arts and craft, and how it can boost your pocket and ultimately national development.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Chief. Good morning, sir. You are here already?
No, now my spirit day, my body day for house. What kind of question is that? Were you not the one that fixed this meeting for 8 a.m.? You are now coming by 10 a.m. and start asking me jab questions.
But Chief, now, I'm sorry. Don't you also go late for meetings sometimes? You know now, African time thing.
No more African time. And no more pancaking of face during office hours. At the end of the day, we will lose valuable time. We will not make progress. If we want to move this nation forward, we must treat business as business and respect time. Change begins with me.
Thank you, sir. I'm sorry. Can we go for the meeting now, Chief?
Better.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Another edition of TV Guide magazine is out with revealing accounts of trending stories. With the dwindling oil revenue, he says there is no reason to worry.
We strongly believe that culture is Nigerians' new oil, and we're going to show that by creating wealth, our art and culture will be a statement for all of us.
Our cover story is on Otumba Olusegun Munchewe, Director General, National Council for Arts and Culture. For upcoming TV presenters, Elegant Elizabeth Banu tells you what it takes. A peep into the activities of the Presidential Committee on the Northeast Initiative, a mandate being fulfilled. A trip to the Yankari Games Reserve at Safari in Bauchi State brings you closer to nature. And the Oshun Oshogbo Festival, our culture, our pride. Professor Adiku, the Vice Chancellor, University of Abuja, tells us what it means to manage a university, plus our regular features, star profile, media issues, relationships, young minds, entertainment, sports, and lots more. Pick your copy now at the vendors or at every NTA station nationwide. TV Guide, still your indispensable companion.
Former Dutch footballer Ronald Koeman steered the Toffees to victory against the former Argentine defender Mauricio Pochettino's Lily-White Spurs. The world's most wanted league, Everton versus Spurs, Saturday 9 September on Kwese Free Sports for the fan.
If you just tuned in, the program is Good Morning Nigeria, and you're right in time for the second conversation for the day. Now, art and craft, part of the people's culture and tradition, and showcase its civilization. And in terms of economic benefit, there is so much to gain, as many nations are known to have survived or are still surviving largely on the proceeds of their art and crafts. What is the situation in Nigeria and indeed the continent? Here's Timothy Yusuf again with this report taking a look at art and crafts.
Against the backdrop of the falling oil price and the growing concerns over the vulnerability of Nigeria's economy, it is imperative to draw attention to the potentials of the nation's arts and crafts sector. Many believe that the contributions it can make to Nigeria's economic development, especially in job and wealth creation, cannot be overemphasized. Experts say all over the world, nations strive to preserve and promote their arts and cultural heritage as a way of projecting its civilization. It is in these directions that they submit that Nigeria must do the same, because it is so endowed with arts and crafts which stand out in the global arena. This arts and culture can contribute significantly to Nigeria's economic development, especially in tourism and in building a strong economy that benefits people at the grassroots. As a component of tourism, arts and crafts provide a unique attraction to tourists who visit the country to have a feel of the essence of the nation's diverse culture especially. Over the years, the National Council for Arts and Culture has continued to leverage on Nigeria's arts and crafts for promoting national unity and integration, as well as creating wealth. This it has achieved through its many programs, such as the annual National Festival of Arts and Culture, NAFEST, the ongoing 10th edition of African Arts and Crafts Expo, holding in Abuja, is taking the discourse higher. Apart from participants coming from various parts of Africa and the country, the event also comes at a time when nation's economy is being diversified to turn away attention from oil and gas. How can the sector be restructured and positioned towards playing a key role in building the nation's economy? Are artists motivated and rewarded to develop their art and earn a living? What are the protections and incentives available for marketing artistic works? These are some questions our guest will be providing answers to.
All right, thank you very much, Timothy Yusuf, for that background report. Now we have three guests with us here in the studios to take this subject notch higher. Let's welcome at this time the very usually visible Director General of the National Council for Arts and Culture, Otumba Olusegun Rishewe. Otumba Rishewe, a pleasure to have you join us on the program this morning.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
And then we also have with us here for the discussion Professor Barclays Ayakoroma. He's Executive Secretary and CEO of the National Institute of Cultural Orientation. Professor Ayakoroma, pleasure to have you on the program.
It's my pleasure.
Okay. And Blessing?
Yes, glad to introduce Mercy Afanaji. She's the Director of Department of Handcrafts and Informal Sector Migrations, Minister of Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises, Republic of Cameroon. Yes, because she's participating, or at least the country is here at AFAC this year. Good to have you join us, Mrs. Sinaji.
Thank you very much.
And welcome to Nigeria. Bienvenue.
Merci beaucoup.
Okay, gentlemen and ladies, let's take a look. Exactly, art is said to be who we are. Culture is what we have decided to sell to the world. It speaks. But what exactly is our art saying today? Otumba Rishewe.
Thank you very much. Let me first and foremost thank the NTA for this massive support. I mean, no matter how good the product is, without the right publicity, it's as good as nothing. So I thank NTA. Basically, I have been able to go into some little research, and over 17 countries in Africa today depend solely on culture and tourism. And Nigeria has over 45% of the art bits in Africa. And we found out that we need a platform to leverage on this, particularly now that we're talking about diversification. How do we diversify? Into what? And I've always tell most of our people that someday, sometime, this oil will fade out. What do we have to fall back at? So to me, culture, it's at the right time now for us to key into it and bring all the resources we could. You did ask me of probably the contribution. In this expo alone, we're looking at about 800 million exchange hands. And most of the countries coming, we stay in our hotels, we eat our food, transportation, etc. So we're opening up a big market. For the first time also, we have a bureau de change right there at the expo, just to add value and make sure that we can tap into. Then the critical one is the creative industry. It's an individual effort, but how do we encourage them to make the best of those products?
All right, Otumba, thank you very much. Excuse me, let's bring in Professor Ayakoroma. Professor Ayakoroma, how do we situate all of this, particularly in the context of the ongoing expo? I'm not sure when the expo is coming to a close, but how do we situate all of this in terms of also raising public awareness? There's a sense in which, you know, the arts and craft, it's often perceived as something exotic, you know, something that is out of the reach, or something that people look at generally with some indifference. So how are we making this transition? What is in existence, and what do we intend to see?
Yeah, first and foremost, I think through the instrumentality of NCAC, under the leadership of Otumba Shegun Orishewe, AFAC has been taken to another level. And of course, it is providing the platform for our arts and craftsmen to display their talents, to display their products. And like he mentioned, the value chain is not only the arts and craftsmen. Other people are benefiting from a platform like this. So people now have the opportunity, you know, from the various states, because NCAC is like a rallying point, galvanizing the efforts of the various states to come and project what they have. Is it the weavers? Is it the carvers? Is it the painters? Is it the fashion designers? So people have the opportunity. I wish the program would have lasted for more than the, the number of days it is lasting. So it is like a fair, for people to come and display what they have. And of course, Nigerians to also patronize them. Because by the more we patronize what they are producing in our houses, we have different designs here, like what we are sitting, but at least with the local craftsmen, with the local artists, the aesthetics of this studio can be changed to reflect what is truly ours. So I think Nigerians need to be enlightened, and of course he has appreciated you for the publicity you are giving the program. Once that kind of publicity is given, of course people will now go all out and see what is happening.
Thank you very much, Professor Yankuruma. Now, Mrs. Najin, Cameroon is noted for his own kind of expression with the art, and I'm sure what you have brought to Nigeria or to showcase before Nigeria and the rest of the continent is key. Can we have an inkling of what you're here to do and how you've been able to project that with the art and crafts?
Actually, thank you very much. Actually, Cameroon has always participated in this expo over the years. Okay. So we thought it's necessary, as usual, to come with our craftspeople who are well known for their creativity, for their innovative works, to come and display their know-how here in Nigeria. So
what exactly is standing out for Cameroon at this exhibition?
What exactly is standing out? I think we have a chair that is, I can say, for high-ranking people in the society to sit, a chair made of cow horns, which has caused so much attraction. Everybody who passes by that chair wants to get that chair, but somehow, I think the chair has been reserved for somebody who has already shown his interest to acquire that chair. So I think we have that chair. We have also our paintings. We have some paintings that have also brought in so much admiration from visitors.
Okay, still with you. We're in a continent whereby it's as if most of the things we create as part of art or culture, it's just with us. We don't even take so much pride in it, or let's say some of us, or most of us do not take so much pride in it. What exactly is happening back in Cameroon when, this art and craft actually turned out, or the kind of expression is not being received? It seems as if maybe it's just foreign, at least outside the continent, that is tend to appreciate most of this art. What is the position in Cameroon?
Yeah, in Cameroon, I think it's arts and I can say that actually craft work is a new concept in Cameroon. I think it started developing in the year 2004 when a ministry was created specifically for the handicraft sector. Before, it wasn't really an issue. So since 2004, when a new minister came and a ministry was created, that is when sensitization started going on for the arts, for the handicraft sector. And since then, various expositions have taken place at the national level, at the regional level, divisional, and at the council levels to sensitize people about this, about the potentials that the craft sector can bring to our economy. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much.
We'll come back
to okay, Kingsley.
Yeah, we'll come back to you, Mercy Afan Nanji. Let's bring in again Otumba Olusegun Runshawe. You talked about the core agenda now of seeking to mainstream arts and craft into the diversification economic agenda, or economic diversification agenda. What are the issues that are being pursued to achieve this? In terms of the producers, in terms of the marketers, in terms of the purchasers, can we have a sense of, if you like, the small economy that surrounds arts and craft?
Well, let me quickly mention this here. And when I resumed barely 2-3 weeks, I secured 300 million naira for the creative industry. Because we have to appreciate one thing. I will give you this today. If you sell a barrel of oil, maybe 2 families in Ikoyi, Maitama, and Ikeja will enjoy it. But if you put in 300,000 naira into this industry, you'll be amazed how many lives you are touching. Some of them, their capital is under 50,000, 100,000. So what we've tried to do is to create an enabling environment vis-a-vis Mr. President vision. When he became president, he said, look, he's going to make Nigerian a suitable place for the ordinary Nigerian to stay, enjoy, create more employment, reduce poverty, etc. That network is with culture. And that's why we've taken it upon ourselves to key in by bringing them closer, making them more comfortable. Now, we have a woman who produces bag, iPad patch bag. She did few, and somebody in the Gambia is ordering for 2 million pieces. Another Chinese firm is ordering for close to 500,000 to test the market. And I asked why. They said because the pouch is made with the kind of dress Blessing is wearing today. Yes, it's covered by Nigerian fabric.
So I should actually convert mine to
absolutely. Now, the beauty of that is that pouch leather in America, in London, when it's cold, it breaks off. It rankles and breaks off. But Adire will never. So we are able to identify one market.
It's weatherproof.
Weatherproof, thank you, which is going on. Another gentleman called Dajo in the Benue produces cup glasses like this. And they are better than the ones we import. What we are trying to tell Nigerians, enough of when you want to eat, foreign plates. When you want to drink, foreign cup. When you want to sleep, foreign bed sheet. When you wake up in the morning, everything foreign. And we have all in Nigeria. Do you know something happened in Afak? The tire of your car, the used one, thrown away. We've turned it to center table now. It's in Afak.
Do we have a shot of that? I don't think our producer got a shot of that.
He has it.
But if we can get that, but these are some of the items on display.
Yeah.
All right, let's proceed. Yeah.
Yeah. So what we're trying to say,
it's not toxic.
No, absolutely. Okay. It's the same tire wrapped with the kind of dress she's wearing. Yes, I'm so proud of the dress she's wearing because that is really truly Nigerian. So they use it to wrap it, and instead of throwing away the tire. Now, 2 things have been achieved quickly. We're cleaning the environment from waste to wealth. And that also brings me quickly to show you that recently we are training over 500 Nigerians under 1 week on skill acquisition. That all has come. We have to understand that the ordinary Nigerian who cannot afford some of these things, if we create a room for them, then they become self-employed. Let me now also tell you this quickly today. We are trying to talk to the Ministry of Education. Some schools import school uniform from abroad. Why? And this importation is killing the ordinary parents who want to pay school fees, give them food and good life. We're now introducing Adire. If every school in Nigeria will use Adire for 1 year, we are creating over 7 million jobs in Nigeria. 7 million. And all the schools will now have local fabrics. We have to be proud of our own. So those are some of the key components.
Yeah, Otumba, thank you very much. Professor Ayakoroba, again, you've listened to the many examples cited by the DG of Council for Arts and Culture. I'm not sure we don't have an economist amongst us here, but if you want to mainstream a particular sector into the economy or a particular into the economy, we'll begin to identify usual so-called stakeholders. That's why I said, what are the issues? What are the challenges that we have now in the arts and culture segment? Do you have market resistance? Do you have policy distortion? What is it that we need to do to help fast track some of the points that Otumba Rushanwe has articulated?
Yeah, I think in the first place we have the challenge of necessary data. If I ask Otumba now how much came into AFAC, yesterday, or the first day, how much was generated, we wouldn't know. And that is because we don't have that statistics. And of course, if we now see how many craftsmen, arts and craftsmen are in the respective states, we've not taken an inventory to know the number of persons and what they do. Because if you have to talk about developing the sector, we need to know what is on ground and what can be developed adequately or to a level where, you know, the impact will be felt. So we have that challenge. Then secondly, Nigerians have not seen the importance of the sector. That culture, like he mentioned, culture is the alternative to oil. And I've always said that culture is the vehicle that drives tourism. You cannot be talking about, you know, tourism when, you know, people don't appreciate what you have.
So what is a body like NICO, which you had, doing in terms of cultural orientation or reorientation over the years?
Yeah, well, we, first and foremost, is the NICO is the capacity, you know, building arm in the sector. We are into training and manpower development. And that's why we run, you know, a training school. You know, there are many persons, accountants are in the culture sector, management persons, economists, and so on. But then we feel that you need to know the product you are selling for you to sell it very well. So what you have to do is, we have a training school where everybody is like a finishing school for everybody in the sector at the state and federal government level, leading to, you know, award of diploma, postgraduate diploma in cultural administration. We prepare, you know, officers to administer the sector. But one challenge we had before now was recognition of our certificates at the state and federal level. But we thank God that Nasarawa State University, where I have also been teaching, you know, as an associate professor, the Vice Chancellor has approved the affiliation of the training school to the university. And the university has also adopted our postgraduate diploma program to be run also at the university. So if any person, you know, doesn't want to come to our training school or our cultural academy, the person goes to, you know, Nasarawa State University. That way, you know, people who may be stagnated because of issue of certification will not be there. We also run a language program, because, you know, Nigeria, we have over, you know, 500 languages, though, you know, we know specifically the, you know, mostly the major languages.
Well, that's fine, Professor Ayakura. Thanks a lot. How we leverage on our population that in terms of language groups and so on and so forth. Just before we bring in Mrs. Safa Naji again, my next question goes to Dr. Otumba Rushewe. Otumba Rushewe, with 2 points that Professor Ayakura talked about, I would like you to comment on. One has to do with how to further sensitize Nigerians on the hidden, as it were now, importance of arts and craft. Not just arts and culture, arts and craft. That's one leg. Second leg, we are here in Abuja. And of course, if we run a federal system, that tells you that throughout the subnational governments, there are matters pertaining to arts and craft that can be tapped into. So how is this working out? Sensitization, which has to do with reorientation, and then federalizing, if you like, arts and craft.
Well, thank you very much. Let me first and foremost correct one impression. At my level, I've not been involved in any sector that will not have a database. Today, maybe Professor is not aware, I have a whole statistic department who goes around every stall at the end of the day, collating how many people visited every stand, what they have made. This is, without this, you can't be talking to the minister to help you to your budget, etc. What have you contributed? What is in it? So we've done all that, and it's ongoing every day.
So as of yesterday, how many people visited the expo?
As at yesterday, thank you for that question. You know, we have 6 components at the expo. Okay. We are giving free eye test, free dental, free BMI, free blood, free sugar.
For all comers?
Free to everybody. And we are giving out 200 medicated glasses. Now, As at yesterday alone, we have 97 Nigerians who came for eye test alone. For dental, we had 103. For BMI, which was interesting, 556. For skill acquisition alone yesterday, for making of bag, making of shoes, we have 132. For making of soap, perfume and all this, I mean, I can let you have all. We have 128. Everything is, you see, without statistic data, you'll be analog.
Yeah, just okay. Thanks. Yeah. But let's deal with the issue now. Popularizing arts and culture, and then also dealing with your interaction with the subnational governments. How to federalize arts and craft, so that everything gels. As we are moving here in the federal capital, elsewhere in the states, we have proper relationship, and then we have a broad overview of how we are mainstreaming or seeking to mainstream this into the economy.
Christy, thank you very much for that. Right now, all the state governments have keyed into NCAC, with due respect, as the central bank of culture in Nigeria. Oh yes, it's the central bank of culture in Nigeria. So all the state keyed in, and we have two major products for the year, AFAC and NAFEST. NAFEST goes round every state. So that answers your question. We are going to Kaduna in October. His Excellency, the Governor of Kaduna State, El-Rufai, has given us all the support. From Kaduna, we move to another state. So we have that synergy working together. Right now, God's willing, we are planning to get 20 artists per state, and we all come, where we have the 37 wonders of Nigeria. Look, we must come to terms. All this idea of, you mentioned earlier on, people coming to talk of statistics, data. Look, this sector does not have time for conferences, workshops, seminars. We want to put food on the table of Nigerians to have something to eat. So this strategy is, how do we empower these people? So many state governors now are keyed into that strategy. Skill acquisition, which is key now. Do you know that if you train 10 people how to do makeup, hairdo, etc., they become employers of labor. So we don't have to wait and be doing that. So keying into your question properly, every state of the Federation now are working with us in developing the strength of arts and craft. But we must get something right. Every state and every region has its own strength. We must tap from the strength of every region. We don't tell everybody, like recently everybody wants to have a carnival. No! You don't have two carnivals in anywhere in the world. The oldest carnival is Trinidad and Tobago, 174 years old. Brazilian, 84 years old. Notting Hill in London. But today, we have a carnival. Every state wants to have a carnival. It is wrong. We either have a boat regatta, south-south. We have a Doba, the north. We have Osun Osogbo, the southwest. We have in the east the Ejile masquerade. And, we now identifying our strength and keying into it. Every state cannot bring the same thing.
All right, thank you very much, Otumba Roshiwe. Back to Madam Naji. Now, this is one great form, arts, culture, crafts, an expression that is very rich for the continent. Yet, we're still underdeveloped in so many areas in projecting it before the world, so that even the world is telling our own stories with what we have. What has Cameroon done differently, and what should the continent be doing differently to actually project what Africa has been doing over the last 10 years? This is the 10th edition.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah. As I earlier said, Cameroon has been organizing various exhibitions every year, and in the month of April, May, we are going to have it's a national exhibit, but it is at the international level, yes. So we are going to have it April, May next year, and it is organized every 2 years. In addition to that, Cameroon has constructed handicraft villages in all the 10 regions. Handicraft villages in all the 10 regions, and the one at the national capital is called the International Handicraft Center. And there in the handicraft villages, all craftsmen who have demonstrated great creativity and innovation are given stands where they exhibit their products. People come there, visit the handicraft villages, and they buy. And inside those handicraft villages, we also have training centers for craftspeople, for those for crafts enterprises, so that in order to enhance and reinforce their capacities. Then again, at the level of each council, we have put registers to identify all the craftspeople. At the level of every council, each year from January to March, craftspeople are to come there and register.
So your own database is intact?
Yeah.
Okay, well, coming to the current expo here in Abuja, what is it that you have seen from other exhibitors, other than those from Cameroon?
Actually, what I've seen...
in terms of your takeaway lessons?
In terms of my takeaway lessons, the training that is taking place at the expo ground, I've seen it. I've also seen the social responsibility aspect, where people come for free eye tests, dental care, and other checkups. I've seen it, and there are other things I think that I've taken note of.
There's also a language program.
Yeah, there's a language.
Which Michael is powering, you know.
All right. Thank you, Mrs. Nanja. Let's bring in again Professor Ayakora. Professor Ayakora. I'm sorry, Ayakoroma. What is the negative impact, if you like, or influence of popular culture on greater appreciation of the true worth of our arts and craft? And how can this be overcome?
Well, I think our exposure to Western lifestyle has impacted negatively, especially on our youth, in the aspect of music, in the aspect of dressing, and even food. You know, these things are not helping us, and Nigerians are no more taking pride in what is Nigerian. If we take the dress culture, for example, not many. I remember in NICO when we started, you know, when we said we needed a dress Nigeria policy for Mondays, Wednesdays, and Friday. Today, Friday, you go to any NICO office, you will never see any English attire. Some persons resisted, oh, I'm a lawyer, I'm an accountant, and this. And I give them the example of countries. Go to Pakistan, go to India. How do lawyers dress? How do accountants dress? Go to Indonesia. Indonesia uses the batik for everything, whether it is a suit or, you know, whatever. You know, they use the batik. So there's nothing like hope, because it's not your dress that makes you what you are. It's what you have in your brain. So I think popular culture has really affected most of our, you know, our ways of life. The chair she mentioned in the AFAC exhibition, you know, you need to see the beauty, or the tires that have been turned to dining or center table. You need to see the beauty. But most of our young ones will not want to say, why will I go? And I started life with cane chairs, you know, and they lasted for over 10 years. I would like to go back to them again.
But now you're on the leather. I'm sure you're on leather.
Well, Professor Yakurba, I'm sure. Blessing, he said cane chairs. He used to do that thing under the bridge at Maryland.
They're still there.
So you go to them again. Yes. All right, so let's take our reaction now.
Okay, Otumba Rishewe has been doing a great deal to expose our abundant endowment on craft and art for real. This coming from Law Alpha C.
Dele Jack Solomon. Governors can position their states to use arts as tools that unite communities, create economic opportunity, and improve the quality of life.
Very true.
From Mohammed Jamil Sadara, say, please, I want to know how possible it is to have a curriculum extracted from our culture. I see that we need to make this happen.
Olusegun Dosumu, there's a namesake. He said, do we really celebrate arts and craft the way a big country like Nigeria should? The answer is no, we have to do better.
Dike Ogu Samuel says, good work by the council, but they should help develop the local craftsmen and women that are not recognized.
Law Foresee again tweets, arts and craft are an intrinsic history of a particular people, but unfortunately very few Nigerians patronize this sector.
Well, this is one question which we're going to ask, but Muhammad Jamil is already asking. Recently we learned that some of our stolen artifacts are to be returned. It's time to plan for presentation and recovery of our artifacts.
All right, Otumba, that's one. The other point, yes, Otumba, well, a number of points that we could have raised, but we really appreciate you being with us on the program this morning. Otumba Olusegun Rushenwe, Director General, National Council for Arts and Culture. Thank you for being here. And then when is the exhibition closing, by the way?
Well, the exhibition will be closing on the 17th.
Of which month? This month? All right. Thanks a lot for being here.
Before I go, I'd like to just
we don't have enough time. No. If you say this, you have to pay for it.
I don't mind.
But what you have said before, you didn't pay for.
Our culture is our pride.
Absolutely, that's right. Professor Barclays Ayakoroma, Executive Secretary and CEO of National Institute of Cultural Orientation. Naiko, thank you for being on our Good Morning Nigeria program.
It's our pleasure. Okay. And keep selling arts and culture.
All right, thank you. And Mercy Afan Nanji, Director, Department of Handicraft and Informal Sector Migration of the Ministry of Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises from next door, Cameroon. We'd like to appreciate your being on the program this morning.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure. I'm grateful.
Au revoir.
Merci.
All right, so that does it for our discussion segment. The second topic we actually took a look at. Let's go over now to sports. And the stories, of course, we have on basketball and Super Eagles. And by the way, Venus Williams couldn't make it to the finals of the U.S. Open, knocked out by Sloane Stevens in 3 sets. Let's join our sports desk now.
The Men's FIBA Afro-Basket Championship jointly hosted for the first time by Senegal and Tunisia